Welcome to Vintage Radio Cafe, your #1 channel for relaxing vintage audio restoration. If you like watching an idiot wielding a soldering iron, you've come to the right place. Watch Ray's attempts to fix wonderful forgotten radios from another era, way before transistors. Sometimes he even gets them working again. What could go wrong, right?
Hello again and welcome back. Day 8 working on the radio. Yesterday the part that I did went well. I was checking the filament, the transformer, filament windings and all of that. You see in green and all that was great. I had the continuity, very good resistance, which means very low. Everything was going great. And I was up to this part, to the big filter cans, big filter capacitors, the electrolytics, and got to show you this. When I got to the actual can, this is what it looked like. Yeah, so this is the hole where the can is behind. So the exterior of the chassis is on the other side. Now you're seeing the interior, and you can see actually the two contacts there. For actually they're both positive for the two cans, for the two capacitors inside. The problem is this: it's only held in place by tabs that go through those holes, and the right way of doing this is you just have to twist them just a little bit. So those parts here, those little cutaways, those wings, that's what actually retains the whole assembly from going back through, through the hole again. But the person that did this from factory twisted them really too much. You can see it's a 90-degree twist here, same here, almost 90, and 90, even over 90 degrees here. So what that means is that it's virtually impossible to twist those back into position to go back in the hole. Despite my best effort for 2 hours, I could not do it. They broke off. So this is what happened. You can see little tabs here and where they were supposed to be. So you can see they're cut. So, big problem here. I have to find a solution to fix this if I want to keep the original can, or I can simply, which I did before on other radios, which I had to repair quickly for people, I can just use a terminal strip like that and put the capacitors on and use the center tap, which will be bolted to the chassis as the negative. This one is a 3 capacitor assembly, but I would need only 2 for this case. That would be a solution. It would work fine. They would come actually here outside, because I wouldn't have enough space to put them on the inside, because this board here goes here, and there wouldn't be a lot of space to do it. I mean, if my life depended on it, I could probably do it, but so yesterday I cut my repair, cut my day short, and started pondering about that. And then I remembered when I repaired the Grundig, this actual guy, well, I had kept the can just in case someday. So what I was thinking of doing, so as you can see, the can is much smaller, the old one, okay, and the one that I just took out is longer. But the contacts fit, they're at the same position, same spacing, and I tried it and they fit perfectly in the chassis. So what I was thinking of doing was to cut this part remove it with a pipe cutter. Just remove it, gut it as normal, and fit this one inside. Cut the top off of this one, so the capacitors would go through this can, and I would have all the space to actually fit the capacitors, because the shortest one I could find is like 32.5 millimeters. So that's 65 millimeters plus the terminals on top. So I need at least 70 millimeters. So here's the problem. The can doesn't even measure 70, or barely. So I don't think they would fit inside. But if I cut the top, like I said, then they will, if they protrude any amount, whoops, once I fit this like that, that's the idea, maybe it will fit. Crazy plan, but that's my plan. So I'll work on that probably tomorrow, because it's Sunday here and I usually don't work on Sundays. It's the only day, it's God's gift to man. The only day we shouldn't work unless there's an emergency, unless we have to. And I tell you right away, I'm not a religion buff, really crazy about religion, but certain things I like to respect. So that's the plan. Catch you later, probably tomorrow or the day after. Okay guys, so just before I go to bed, I wanted to show you the solution. I hope it's a solution I came up with for the electrolytic can. So this is what it's going to look like when it's done. It's the original can, but there's another one inside. So it's like a Russian doll. And I used the other can. Yeah, let me get it out. I used the other smaller Grundig can that I had kept from another repair. So I put some foam in it. Grab some tweezers here, yeah. So this is the foam I'll be using to secure it inside. So what I did, I used a smaller can. I cut the top off because I need the base of the smaller can, because the tabs actually fit onto the chassis. They fit perfectly. They're just a bit shorter, but I think I'll be okay. And this one had 3 capacitors inside. See the 3 colors there? So what I can do, I've got 2 choices. I need to put 2 electrolytics inside, and the can has to be negative. The can has to be grounded. So I connect the 2 positive to either one, red, yellow, or red, green, or whatever. And I have to make the can, to ground the can, so the common negative have to either touch the can, or I drill a hole and I try to solder it, wrap it and solder it on one of the tabs, or I use the third one, or both, or something like that. And the bigger one, well, I got rid of the base, but I kept the top, so it's like Russian dolls. It'll just fit inside. The problem is I cannot fold. There's too much gap, so I cannot fold metal over it. And even if I did, if I fold some metal over it, it'll shorten the tabs and it won't fit anymore. So I can't put it deep and try to fold some metal over it like it should be. So instead, what I did, like I showed you, I put some foam. Try to fit it back inside. It's pretty tricky. something like that. Foam is just thick enough to hold the can, pretty tight, but it has to be, the foam has to go inside. So see, I didn't do it correctly, so I have to start just like that because it'll move. Probably actually glue it to the can when I'm ready, but it's pretty hard to glue foam without the glue dissolving it. The foam has to be whole as much as possible, but it should be something like that. Okay, so the foam isn't visible anymore, and yeah, so I have to make sure this is the first thing that touches the chassis, so not that. So once the foam is neatly inside, I'll just put a bead of clear epoxy around here, and once inside, you won't see it. The epoxy is going to be clear. Maybe I'll put a few coats, try to get it flush, but that's the best I can do. If I reconnect it correctly, I should be okay. And once inside, nobody will be the wiser. It'll look like the original can. It's not much of the writing left, as you can see. It was pretty faded, so it could have been any can. But the idea is not only to try to keep it original looking, but to be able to make the connections at the same place. All the wires are still in the chassis at the same place, so I would just have to reconnect them, not, do connections with new wires. I could use the old wires, maybe put a bit of heat shrink over it, but over them, but that would be about it. So I'm off to bed. It's been a long day. I usually don't work on Sundays, but I figured if I can just think it out, figure it out, I'll do it tomorrow, Monday, but nah, couldn't help it. Couldn't help myself. I had to do it. So I don't have the components yet. I'm still waiting for the vacuum tubes, but I didn't order any of the capacitors yet because I want to have a good look at the schematic in the chassis and try to order as many as the caps that I think I'll be needing, which means for sure I'm replacing all the electrolytics. I think there's only 4 in all. There's 2 smaller value ones and this one. There's a bipolar, and all the rest is paper caps, and they have to go for sure. If this one was like 50% out of spec, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same for the paper caps, or they'll be leaking, or both. So I'll be back for the next part. So it's the 9th day, day 9, working on the radio. Welcome back. There's going to be a lot going on today because I got all the capacitors in from DigiKey and from Jim Cross in the US. I got all the new old stock vacuum tubes, and let me show you what I did since last time. I restuffed the big filter can, the big filter capacitors in this can, like I said I would, so I could reconnect it absolutely as it was before. So no difference there. The only thing, there's 3 terminal on that base of this can. So the center one here, that's black, it's been covered with heat shrink. So I didn't make any mistakes. I measured the caps and the continuity to the can, to the chassis, which is going to be ground. Everything was great. Once I put the can in and I reconnected it, then I would see the cap not separated anymore, not distinct, but the values were summed up, which is normal because, let me see here, if I can show you, yeah, this big resistor here, those are the two capacitors, and the big resistors there is connected to both positive. So it's normal I should see the values being summed up. So all this worked well. Well, we'll see. And I spent most of the day yesterday just following Manuel Caldeira's method of checking everything in the circuit. So I did, when I say everything, at least the whole B plus path. Everything you see here in green is the path that I checked. I was just about to finish with this one, but you get the idea. And I replaced the vacuum, not the vacuum tube, but the bulbs, the two bulbs. I didn't have 7 volts, so I had 6.8. So I put them in yellow because I still have them on order, and I'll have the right ones. Same for the rectifier. I know the path is okay. Nothing is interrupted, nothing is broken, but what I plan to do at the end is really change the Selenium rectifier for a silicone rectifier. So that's why I left part of it in yellow, so I remember I have to do it. And so the idea, at first I thought I was just going to recap everything, then put the new tubes in and put power on. I think that's the way Manuel does it, but Manuel's he's an electronics engineer. He's really better at it than me, more confident. I'm not that confident. I mean, if I recap everything and I break the cardinal rule before making a first test, I recap everything, then I put the power on and it doesn't work, I'll never know if I made a mistake or if there was something else wrong besides the caps and the tubes beforehand, before I started working on it. So that's not what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do is put it in position, put the protective cover over the rectifier. I won't put the glass plate in, but and I'll turn it around, remove the power cord, separate the power cord from the backing, and start a first test on the dim bulb. What I have to remember is that this ground wire here was going to the bottom plate, bottom grill of the radio, of the chassis. So I just have to make sure either I tape this or, yeah, I'll just tape it. So I know it's supposed to be a ground, but it's connected to components, so I just want to be sure I don't create a short as I go along. So I'll be back with the first test. I'm not super confident it's going to work, but if at least I see the B plus reacting correctly and the can not exploding, so I'll at least know that part is done correctly. So I'll be back. Oh, I forgot to show you. I did the restuffing like I said I would, but I just want to show you basically what I did. I connected both negative to the can. I cut them, I put it real close to it, and I ran a wire from that connection to both negatives to the can, and on the can I made 2 holes so the wire goes out, in, then I twisted it together and I solder it, because I cannot solder them with the same wire. I cannot solder it to the can per se, but it's soldered really tight in place together, so it's not moving, and it shouldn't create any shorts. All the leads were heat shrink, so I put some heat shrink on every one of them. So one positive goes to one terminal and the other positive goes to the other terminal, and then negative goes to the can. Easier said than done, because the can wasn't big. The smaller inner can wasn't big. There's about this much of this capacitor protruding, but with the bigger can over it, it fits nicely. So let's hope I didn't make a mistake. So it's the next day, but I want to show you the result of the test I did on day 9 yesterday. As you can see, I got the cabinet next to the chassis so I could just connect the speakers. I figured if I'm going to test, might as well get an idea of the shape the speakers are in. And the most important thing for me was to make sure the replacement of the electrolytic can had worked. So let me just put some power on. We'll start with AM. Well, at least it turns on. Looking at the rectifier, DC voltage. Schematic, it calls for 270 volts. I seem to stabilize around 250 DC volts. This is not bad. Not bad considering the age of the selenium plates in the rectifier. Yeah. Now if I put the antenna on. Oh. We have sound. And you can see the magic eye in the back is tuned. Wow. Okay. Speakers are working. The woofer, the mid-range here. Not really hearing anything from the tweeter. Electrostatic tweeter. Right here. Have to be careful. There's high voltage there. Okay. So, let me try to change it. I'm sorry for the movement. Let's try to change station. That's 690. Oh, okay, I see. It goes the other way. 690. Okay. 730. It's always been weaker. I don't have a perfect signal, but you know, I'm really surprised. This is 800.
All right, Jenny, thank you so much.
Thank you very much
For your call. Okay,
800
to the Home Improvement Show with President
is
at the end. I'm Joanne Brackett.
the antenna is right in my backyard. It's like 1.2 kilometers away from here.
Right now, time to head on to CJ80.
I can, let me show you. If I move the ferrite antenna, it moves, doesn't make, yeah, for sure, makes a big difference.
90 minutes at Highgate Springs, 20 minutes for Derby Line, 15 minutes at Champlain. Today at Farmer Free, open your app, shop, scan, and earn 20 times the points or 25 times the
It's
points
still,
with a
you know,
BC financial card.
tune better than that.
Let us know what you see on
DC voltage going down, moving a little bit, just as the tubes are warming up.
The race around the country continues on Canada's #1 reality series. A new episode of the
Let's try the tone controls.
Tuesday at 9, 8 Central on
Let's
CBC.
put
Don't miss the global phenomenon.
more bass,
Thrilling and endlessly captivating.
no, less bass,
Victory now is from the finest.
more bass.
HBO's original House of the Dragon. New season. Stream now only on Crave. Subscribe at crave.ca.
The Home Improvement brought to you
Treble?
by Electrica Home Services, offering residential electrical, heating, air
More
conditioning,
treble?
and ventilation services. 514-768-7778.
You can create a happier,
Wow.
healthier lifestyle for you and your family. Montreal Ensemble,
Big difference.
in partnership with the MUHC, is Quebec's only bilingual health and wellness
Okay.
magazine, giving you breaking medical news and stories.
That's really encouraging. I mean, the AM works, everything tunes. So there's a lot of things that are working. Although I didn't change one single capacitor, I just changed the electrolytic from the can. But aside from that, and new tubes. But aside from that, I didn't start recapping the whole unit, and it's working pretty good. Pretty good. I mean, the secondary, I knew they were working, so I'm not surprised the lights came on. Not surprised the AM section is working. Let's try the FM. Okay. It's really weaker. See if we can do with that.
Avec de la musique, les gens qu'on connaît, ces gens-là doivent être compensés, c'est tout.
Bermuda. 6 puffs de love. A little puff of love.
It's not as great as AM, surprisingly. I don't have a strong signal anywhere. I have to crank up the volume more. I could give it a little more juice. We're on full power here. Of course, I tested this last night, and I started on dim bulb, just one bulb restriction, and then going up in voltage. Did the same thing with 2 bulbs. When I was satisfied at 120 restricted, I went to unrestricted, full power without the dim bulb, and it only came to life at about 108 volts. Anything below 108, the two were barely working, and I wasn't getting any sound. So now it's encouraging, but you know, it needs a recap. 249 is pretty stable DC. Just gonna turn it off. The point I want to make is that before any major modification and work on it, it's working. And for me, that is what I need to keep going. It's worth repairing. It's at this point, it's not repair anymore. It's a restoration to bring it back to what it was, almost, to nominal specs. But I'm really surprised, happy, and the change for the new electrolytic cap didn't explode in my face. So I'll keep going, one part at a time. I'm happy I did this test before I started recapping, because like I said yesterday, you try not to shotgun a repair, a radio like that, and just put brand new parts, caps and resistors everywhere without knowing what you're doing. So doing the all the testing I did yesterday, following the schematic and trying to trace where everything was going, the B plus was going in the audio, I had a pretty good idea. It should have worked, I knew there was power going going to the right places. The high voltage was going where it was supposed to go. But it doesn't mean that I knew every component was going to work or not. So that's for the next few days. I'll start with, now that I know that the FM, and it's always the FM by the way, now that I know the FM is weaker, I'll start with that. I'll start in that area, which is everything around this can here. So I'll look at the schematic and try to identify the components that go there. I can tell you I already checked those guys. There's I think it's an 18K and a 8K resistor, and they check out perfect. Doesn't mean they're connected right though. One other thing I checked was the voltage from the FM, and on pin 1 and 6 I should be getting, I think it's 145 and 115 volt, and I was getting over 200. So there's something probably leaking some DC. That's why it's higher, and under those conditions I cannot expect the FM to be working perfectly. Also, when I was moving the vacuum tube, I was getting or losing the FM. So and the tube tests, I have two actually, and they test out perfect on the vacuum tube tester. They check out perfect, but since I get different results just by touching it and moving it, I don't know. Maybe in the can, in the box, underneath, there might be a loose connection or something. I can tell you, I'll try really, really hard not to mess around with this. This is really, really full of very sensitive little components, capacitors and coils and all that for the FM. And if you can't avoid going into that, the better you are. I've seen Manuel do it with one, at least one, and wasn't working. He moved things apart, changed stuff. No, actually, he didn't change anything. He just redid the solder joints and put the can back together, and it was working. But he was never able to identify the root cause. So those things are really, really sensitive, and if I can avoid it, I won't mess with that. But there's so many things I have to check, and so many capacitors I want to change, namely some electrolytics, some bigger values there, bigger voltages, all that jazz. So I'll get back to you when I'm done, at least when I start recapping. So we're at the end of day 10, late at night. I spent almost 2 days recapping part of the radio. I did all the top part, all the what I call the main board. You can see some of the new components there. This is the casualty list so far. All the electrolytics from that part have been removed and changed to new ones, plus some paper caps. Although they look metallic, they're paper caps. And if you're wondering what are those, the white and green tubes there are just cardboard straws, really thick cardboard straws, which I hate drinking from, but they are very useful to cover the dial cord, so I don't hit it with the hot soldering iron and break the cord. And let me show you what we've got so far. It's improved. We'll just check what we have on the B plus side at the rectifier directly. Let's try AM. I also got the new lamps, the correct one at 7 volts. Let's put the antenna on. The voltage is going down as the tubes are charging. The filaments are heating up. You can already hear some sound. Like I've mentioned, the target voltage, the working voltage should be around 270. So it's pretty low at 245, and it goes lower a bit every day. So I can tell the Selenium rectifier is failing slowly, and I will order the board that Manuel built, they're designed for a new silicone rectifier. So let's have a listen at the AM.
For only $177 a pound, that's Super C. Traffic and transit every 15 minutes on CJ88.
I'm surprised. That's about the best I can get it to tune. A little bit better on stronger stations. But it should be better tuned than that.
The latest audio and top podcasts. Plus, browse curated playlists like Songs of the Summer 2020.
Sounds really good. Now on the FM, I'll leave the volume where it is now and switch on the FM band.
And your children, what are their names?
Try to tune it as best I can. So as you can see, it's really weaker,
I'll play a song for the whole.
but it's much better since I've cleaned the
All right, you have a good
all the mechanics and all the contacts from the switches, from the piano key switches with the offset. It's much better. Let's put something else in music so I don't get a strike. Yeah. Doesn't sound bad, but there's a hum. The volume is really, I have to put it quite a bit higher to get decent volume. So let's see, the voltage is going even lower on the FM. Let me turn the volume down. And okay, so there's still some caps to change, namely here on the output transformer. And at the bottom there's a board which you cannot see on the other side that has 4 paper caps that will go tomorrow. And I have to remove the board and cut the wires and resolder them after, or I might use, I'll try it, I might use some quick disconnect, maybe. The wires are pretty short. I'll see what I'll do. And we'll see if that changes anything. But at this point, what I'm thinking is that the voltage is too low to function properly as it should. It should be like 270. I mean, 30 volt difference is pretty high. It's a significant difference, over 10%. Maybe another pass with the offset on the FM switch could improve a little bit better, maybe. But I'm also thinking the radio needs an alignment. I don't have the dial on, so I don't know if I'm on the station or not on the RF side. But as for the IF, I think it's pretty spot on, or at least close to it on the AM. But the FM, I'm suspecting it's way off. We'll see when we get to that point. So the plan for tomorrow is to do all the caps, swap the caps that are left to do, and I'll do some more tests. And I will order the board to change the rectifier, and I'll see from that point on if it improves things or not. I've been looking for 2 days and checking all the resistors and capacitors having to do with the FM, and everything checks out normal. I mean, all the resistors are okay, they're spot on actually. So I really don't know what's going on with the FM, if it's a question of alignment. It's not impossible. I've seen radio change dramatically once they were properly aligned. Then again, I've also seen some radios that you can align it all day long and it doesn't change much. There's usually another problem. So we'll have to see. And once I'm done with that, well, I'll do the recapping of all the circuit for the speakers. But they don't seem to be problematic now, aside from the electrostatic tweeters. But those guys, usually after so long, after 60, 50 years, you know, the foam inside are really dried up and there's no real contact anymore between the two plates, copper plates that should touch and make the vibration, make the sound. Very high frequency sound. They are not like modern tweeters. They don't output a lot of power, but you know, at least when you redo them, usually you can hear them. You can start hearing some higher pitch sound. So the radio sounds good. Like I said, it's encouraging. I want to keep working on it and try to get it working better than it is now. But there's no shame. If I would stop now, it'd still be listenable, you know. But I would know that I could get more out of it. I'm pretty sure. So that's about it before I go to bed. We'll come back once I'm done with the rest of the caps. I will do another test. And it might take a while though before I get the rectifier board. But that's where I'm at right now. Let's turn this off. Let's put it back on AM. Yeah. Put the antenna on.
And this is the part that I don't quite understand why anybody tries this stuff anymore, because you're most likely going to get caught, and with resolution so much better on these cameras, that's what happens in this particular video. It looks like
I like what I'm hearing.
Is behind the
1958.
digging through their backpack even.
Right.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Let's try to make it better.
Walking on for
Have a good night, guys.